And here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Big Idea. I am your host, Dr. Jeffrey Hanna with Clear Chiropractic, where we have a look at a number of the key aspects of health that turns out they're related to a condition with the upper part of the neck that most people never even realize is affecting their health in very disparate kind of ways. And in this episode here, we're going to be talking about a big one that basically everybody is familiar with, but doesn't necessarily think is related to the neck. And what we're talking about is posture. Posture, as we'll say numerous times in this video, is not simply a matter of laziness or needing to sit up straight or stand up straight or even repetitive stress. No. Posture is an outer reflection of your inner well-being, and it starts, of all places, with the alignment and the interface between where your skull meets your spine. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to explain to you a little bit about what the situation is, why as important as doing all of the rehabilitation, all of the exercises, all of the necessary activities to keep your body strong, why it is that unless this area is sitting proper, unfortunately you are swimming against the current of the river rather than going with it. Far better if you've got everything actually going and working in the right direction. So I always start and preface things with a bit of a weird and a bit of a silly question, but nevertheless an important one. Why does a bull have a ring in its nose? And the answer is, it's because the ring is a handle. No matter how big the bull is, no matter how small you might be, if you are grabbing it by that handle, you'll be able to guide and lead that bull wherever it goes. It's the same reason why in football, face masking is such a dangerous penalty, because you grab that face mask and that person will go wherever you lead them. The point here is that where your head goes, your body must follow. And this area where our head meets our spine, that is, if you would, the proverbial weak point in our entire body. In fact, if you think about it, and you're probably familiar with the expression that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Okay. This area up here is what gives you approximately 50% of all the movement, the flexibility, so that you, as a human being, are able to move your head. At the same time, what it also does is it protects the vital life structures right where the messages to and from your brain are supposed to go down to the rest of your body. And so what it means is that in order to produce all of this movement, there is a trade-off. It is not as structurally strong as everywhere else. Flexibility in lieu of strength. There's no disc. There is no joint that locks it into place. So what it means is it means that any time that you might have a physical injury, whether it is a direct injury to your head, whether it's a neck injury, or whether it's a fall on your tailbone, that force is going to move like a shockwave through the system, and it's going to impact and affect things at the point of least resistance. In other words, this area is the one that is going to be most likely affected. And if then it doesn't break, doesn't dislocate, doesn't necessarily even cause any broken bones, bleeding, or anything like that, but if it offsets even just that little bit, it would have the effect as if causing your head to tip down like this. Now, your brain is not going to like that. And so what it's going to say is, okay, we need to make a choice if we're stuck in this kind of a position. We can either A, not work right like this, or what we're going to do is we're going to balance the brain out at the expense of the body below. And what the body will then do is produce compensatory movements, resulting in a head tilt, resulting in a shoulder tilt, and resulting in tightness of the muscles that go all over the way down your body. That then is the manifestation of what we call poor posture. And you'll note that what I've just described here is effectively a sideways tipping kind of movement. So again, if posture was just a matter of we need to sit up, stand up, be straighter, we would do that, and guess what? We would stay there. But as soon as we forget about it, that reflex takes over and we default back into that position that our brain says, we need this position right now because it's the one that's producing the least amount of stress on us. The brain, the nerves, that part that keeps you alive, functioning, and well. Sorry, body, you gotta take one for the team. And the problem is, as strong and resilient as your physical body is, your muscles, your ligaments, your nerves, they can only compensate for so long before something eventually gives. And what we oftentimes then say is a matter of, oh, it's just getting older, or it's degenerative arthritis, or it is just stress, or it's repetitive stress. And we attribute it to all of these different things. No, what this is this is the result of compound interest. There was a problem that's been sitting there for months, weeks, years, or do the wrong order, weeks, months, years, decades, accumulating physical wear and tear over that period of time to the point where your body can't take it anymore. And that then is where the pain, the aches, the symptoms, and the health problems start to manifest. Why? Because we didn't associate that past injury, whatever it was, and we didn't recognize that our posture was a reflection of how our body's trying to compensate for that injury, and we don't do anything about it until we unfortunately reach a crisis point. So understanding that posture, again, is the reflection of the inner sense of well-being. And again, not just the emotion, we're talking about the physical reflection about what is going on beneath the surface. And so what I want to showcase and highlight for you here are just a few of the things and the different ways that this can actually show up in a way where we can look at your posture and have a much better understanding in terms of, well, what is actually going on in your body and what's necessary in order to release those points of tension so that your body can get back to being upright, functional, as good as possible so that you're not going to be deteriorating at the same kind of rate. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. All right, so what do we have here? Well, we've got a few things that I want to showcase for you. We're going to start with this delightful picture that we've got here in the middle, and I'm going to be showcasing this in a few different ways. It's just going to be the one picture, but this is designed to show you the evolution of injuries and the nature of what occurs in the body over a period of time. And then what we're going to be referring to is going to be this little video here brought to you by My Misalignment. So appreciate the work that you guys do in producing these little videos here. In brief, what is it that you're looking at in the video right here? This is a top-down view, as if we were looking at that top and then the second vertebra in your neck with the spinal cord in this area right through here. And so what I'm going to showcase for you are a few different combinations of potential misalignments, injuries where the joint, again, doesn't break, doesn't dislocate, but it offsets, shifts, and gets trapped just enough that your brain and your body are going to have to work in order to compensate for that. So I want to illustrate for you here first and foremost that if and when those vertebrae do so happen to misalign, in this case, I'm showing it in oppositional directions. Okay, what it does is it's not necessarily or literally compressing your spinal cord. That's not what happens. But we've got these little ligaments on the inside that effectively work as tethers. And what they do is they start to exert a tension on the side of it that can start to produce a little bit of irritation. And if you have irritation to your brainstem, your spinal cord, your nervous system, it's going to affect you one way or another. Really simple little example I oftentimes talk about. It's like, okay, if I'm poking you in the arm like this, besides punch me in the face, what are you going to do? You're going to lean away from it. That's exactly what your body's going to do in this kind of a situation right here. If there is that mechanical tension irritating those vital life tissues, it's going to lean away from it and try to maintain balance as well as it possibly can. So this right here is going to be the first level that we talk about. And we can think of it either in terms of a tilt Or we can also think of it in terms of a crooked, if you would. So we have some kind of original physical injury. And what it does is it causes one layer of distortion, something kind of like this, where we're going to have the two elements essentially misalign or go off center in that same direction. In this particular case, I'm showcasing as if those two vertebrae are going to go toward the right side. So, as we said, if those two vertebrae go to the right side, what happens effectively is your head would collapse down like this. Brain's not going to work right. So what does your body do? It compensates by causing your neck and your shoulder to tip in the opposite direction, which effectively causes your center of gravity to shift over toward that right side, causing muscle tension down or asymmetrical tension along both sides of your body. And so if you're attuned enough to this, what you're oftentimes going to be seeing is you look at pictures of yourself and you will see that, okay, your body, yeah, sure enough, is a little bit crooked. And by and large, you're getting through life without too many issues, but you notice and experience that you've got tight muscles in different parts of your body. And depending if you are using those muscles a little bit more in the day-to-day, you're going to either have headaches or sore neck or sore shoulders or sore back. You see the pattern that I'm saying. And if you're somebody who likes to walk or run a lot, what you'll probably notice is that you wear your shoes unevenly. Why? Because if your body's compensating when you're upright, it's going to have that change in terms of how either you walk or you run. Now, I'll also throw in here that it's oftentimes not a physical injury that person is able to remember that causes this to start. So, for example, when we're born, a normal delivery is going to use somewhere between about 50 and 80 pounds worth of force. That is 10 times the entire weight of a newborn's body. So you can appreciate if something goes off center from day dot, there's going to be consequences. It's going to affect the way that that person's posture is growing up as they're learning to crawl, to stand, to walk, let alone ride a bike, play sports, drive a car, or any of the number of additional things that we're then going to experience over the course of the years. There's an old expression, but absolutely true. As the twig is bent, so grows the tree. So especially when we're thinking about little kids, posture, scoliosis, spinal curves, a lot of these things, they have their origin from before we can even remember. Not always, but that's the first level. Now, when we're young, when we are flexible, our body is able to use our muscles to be able to compensate for this stuff pretty good. But find for me somebody who's ever just gone through life with one physical injury, let alone two or three. That's then where we're going to have the evolution in different kinds of symptoms as we start to see a change in the overall alignment and a change in the posture into more complex patterns. More complex patterns. This is going to be what we call the kink. The kink is where you've had an injury, but effectively now what's happening is if you look at the relationship between those top two vertebrae, they're effectively splaying out, going in opposite directions. And it has a tethering or a physiological effect kind of like this. So one is kind of shifting one way, one is kind of shifting the other. Now, that, without getting too boring into the biomechanics of it, is usually from two injuries of the exact same variety. So for example, to produce that particular misalignment that I'm showcasing for you right here, what we call an ASR ALS, that's an injury that occurs where your head is going down to the right like this, and it produces A plus B at the exact same time. But the sum of those two injuries is worse than if it was just the one. Now, you might remember what we'd said before, that when there was just the one level of injury, your body is usually able to compensate by making you go crooked, producing a tilt, and using your muscles to be able to compensate. But when your muscles can't take it no more, even if you're the strongest person in the world, the muscle will then transfer that extra stress into the ligaments. that normally hold the joints and hold the bones together. If you've ever tweaked your ankle or tweaked your wrist or tweaked your neck, you'll understand that you get this pinpoint, sharp kind of pain. It doesn't shoot into your hand. It doesn't shoot into your leg, although a lot of times people will confuse this for sciatica. We're talking about sharp, nasty, or deep gnawing kinds of pain discomfort. That is the hallmark of when ligament is under stress and tension. Why? Because we've gone from having a muscle problem now into the ligament at a more complex kind of layer. And depending then on what kind of activities you do and how it is that your body tries to compensate, and really the hallmark that we see in a kink, if you look at a person's posture, is that their neck and their shoulder goes one way, and then their head kinks back like this, going the exact opposite. And you can appreciate that stretches out one side, but then produces a kink on the other. And depending where that's going to be impacting your neurology, we very commonly see that when people, if they experience migraines or vertigo, or if they get that acute neck pain, or they get that acute low back pain, or they start to experience various issues with either their shoulders or their hips. Because whether you choose to call it a capsulitis, a bursitis, synovitis, effectively we're talking about stress and tension on tendons and on ligaments because the muscle can't compensate. It's basically being told go in two different directions at the exact same time. That's the nature of a kink, one level up. Now, if then the ligament can't take it anymore, then the problem starts to affect your neurology. So we've got a progression on the complexity of how well and how long your body's able to compensate for these things. So let me show you what happens there. Now, even though on the surface this is going to look very similar, we're going to showcase it as if, again, the two vertebrae, they're going in opposite directions effectively. This is a little bit more complex because we're talking now, there we go, about not just going in the one direction, or oppositional directions from a single injury. Now we're talking about a complex injury or two separate ones. For example, whiplash, where your head goes one way and then goes the other. So it causes one particular locking and misalignment of these vertebrae one way, and then literally the exact opposite a level or two down. And so what happens here is you've really got huge amounts of stress and tension. Now, when that happens, the way that your body most commonly tries to compensate is it does so by producing a bit of a twist where your shoulders on one side rotate forward and your hip on that side rotates back the other side. The joints of the spine do not literally twist, but we see this global effect again showing up through a person's posture. And again, depending on where you hold your stress, depending on what kind of physical activities you do, this will vary where you experience it. If it's right up at the top, it's very often going to be tinnitus, it's going to be a TMJ issue, or you're going to be experiencing chronic dizziness. If it's down in this area right here between your shoulder blades, you're going to be getting numbness, tingling into your hands. If it's going to be in the middle part of your back, it's always going to feel like you've got this horrible knot. If it's down in the very bottom, it's going to be a true blue sciatica with disc damage, radiating pain down into your foot, all that sort of good stuff. And depending how your body might be trying to compensate for this stress at any moment in time, these symptoms might actually shift and pivot. Because you see, when your body has to deal with multiple levels of injury, it's going to try to compensate by making you lean like this. But when it gets tired, it's going to make you lean back the other way. So there is this entire back and forth kind of effect. Think of that the next time you're standing in a line. You are shifting your weight constantly back and forth. That is a hallmark here, whether you're experiencing any of these symptoms yet, that your body is trying to compensate for these things. Again, posture is a reflection about the inner well-being. And posture can also be used to understand that we can prevent issues before they necessarily have to manifest. And that's really going to be the take-home message I hope that you get from this particular video. Many people, they do not go to see the upper cervical chiropractor thinking they can help me with my posture, that I should probably get checked like going to the dentist before I have a problem, before I have cavities, before I experience vertigo or headaches or migraines or dizziness or sciatica, all that sort of stuff. That if my posture is crooked, I can prevent these things before it happens. And I'm really hoping that this video here, either because of your own experience in terms of like getting help and relief, but recognizing and realizing how is it that you can help other people? What are the signs that you're looking for? You look at a person's posture. That will let you know if they are in need of this particular kind of care. Again, simply doing the exercises by themselves will not solve these issues that we're talking about, because if there was a stretch, an exercise, rehabilitation that you could do that was going to fix these misalignments on their own, all you would ever need to do would be see a massage therapist, a physical therapist, and go to the gym. But as we know, there is a difference. These things are exclusive. You can't substitute one for the other. But fortunately, is if you can get your spine properly aligned and free and flexible and mobile and healing and getting stronger, holding, stabilizing, then when you do those activities working with the massage therapist, your physical therapist, and going to the gym, that again is flipping it around. That is where you're going with the current, not continuously having to fight it. That's where we see the best improvements, not only in a person's posture, but in their flexibility, in their strength, in their longevity, and their ability to do the things in life that they really want to keep doing, not just when they're still kids, teenagers, 20s, but well into 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. Now, the last little case that I've got here, I don't have a video for you, but if you would, ass backwards. So you're looking at a person's posture, and they're either A, they seem to be in a relatively open, crooked, or tilt kind of configuration, or their posture seems to be almost completely normal. And yet they have so many different things going on, it's not even funny. This is like taking an aluminum can and flattening it all the way down. It's where what you see on the surface is quite literally the exact opposite of the way that your body was originally trying to compensate for the issue. The muscle absorbed as good as it could. The ligament absorbed as good as it could. The nerve absorbed as good as it could. But even that was not enough. And now the system is simply put at the point of absolute and utter fatigue. And these then are some of the nastiest kinds of symptoms that people can experience. The neuralgias, the chronic fatigue, the fibromyalgias, the muscle weaknesses, the nerve disorders, the ones where people go to the ENT, the neurologist, and which may be borderline surgery. But unfortunately, when we're dealing with functional neurological conditions such as these, surgery unfortunately doesn't help many of these people, or they're not surgical candidates. Why? It's because surgery will not be able to make all of those changes to get everything back to balance. And getting results for these people is also incredibly hard. If you've got that aluminum can, it's squished all the way down, you ain't never getting it all the way back. At best, you try to unkink it as good as you possibly can, but those creases to a certain degree can be permanent. So you have to try and do the very best that you can. And even then, as you're going through the process of trying to bring the body up into a higher state, you oftentimes have to drag it through those previous states of resistance, which can be a very, very uncomfortable process. We don't like this. We hate seeing it when people are in this category, but in the same breath, I also hope that, if you're watching this video and you find yourself in that collapse category, that you can appreciate that could well be why so many people look at me, but they're not sure exactly what to do. They think it should be relatively straightforward. They think that what they're going to do is be able to help, but everything that they do seems to be making things worse. It's because we almost need to completely flip and think about doing things from the exact opposite of what we're seeing on the surface. And of course, many of these conditions, especially a chronic fatigue, especially neuralgia, and especially fibromyalgia, they're multifactorial. It's not just the body imbalance stemming from the posture issue, stemming from the upper neck misalignment that's often causing the problem. It's usually more than one thing. And this is, again, one essential thing, but we can't exclude any of the others. So I hope that in this particular little video here, I've been able to show for you the progression in terms of what happens in terms of your posture, how it manifests in your body in different ways, affecting your muscles, then your ligaments, then your nerves, and your health at varying levels. So that, again, understanding that, you might be able to prevent certain issues before they manifest. Or even if you do find yourself in that circumstance where something's wrong, I should probably do something about this, that you have a better appreciation and understanding about what actually has to happen, what the sequence was that got you there, and what you need to do in order to actually improve your overall quality of life. So there we go, the story of posture. Not necessarily, again, what we commonly think. A matter of you just need to sit up straight. You just need to exercise more. You just need to work that little bit harder. Again, all of that's super duper important. But if this critical area of your body is not aligning, not moving, and it's fixed and it's locked, every effort that you make is never going to be able to work near as well as it can. And whether or not you're experiencing some of the symptoms that we associate with being crooked, with being kinked, with being twisted, with being collapsed, if you recognize yourself in one of those categories, but better yet, if you don't identify with one of those categories and yet you can see and you know that there's a posture imbalance going on in your body, that means that you might very well be able to prevent those kinds of issues by recognizing posture is an early warning sign that if you pay attention to it and make those changes before it starts causing you any issues, that you can actually improve your mobility, your health, your body, your brain, your neurology, your everything, your life function, so that whatever age you are, you're able to continue to do the kinds of activities that you really and truly do enjoy the most. And that certainly is, what we, at Clear Chiropractic and love seeing the very most. Not just helping a person, with pain or with their symptoms and all that sort of stuff, but it's being able to see how a person's life is able to transform as a consequence of things releasing, shifting, and for their body to be able to work the way that it was ultimately designed. So, hope you have enjoyed this particular kind of video. As always, if you have, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Why? Because it helps YouTube so that other people looking for this information are able to find it so that they can get those kinds of changes too. Number two is if you've got friends, family members where they might actually really benefit or enjoy watching this video, please do share it with them. And of course, number three is if you are in the local or the Spokane, Washington area, please do reach out. So you can go to our website, drjeffreyhanna.com, where we've got links with all kinds of blogs, videos just like this. Again, letting you know what the big idea is. How is it that the alignment, the stability, the motion of the joints in the upper part of your neck affect your health in ways that you might never have even imagined, and what you can do about that so that you can keep living and enjoying the quality of life that you really, really want. So go check us out at that website. You can get in touch with us, and certainly if there's anything we can do to help you out there, reach out. We'll be doing the very best that we can. Thanks for watching the video. I look forward to doing the next one for you. This is Dr. Jeffrey Hanna at Clear Chiropractic. Get well, live well, stay well. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.